Good morning, business owners. I hope everybody can hear me loud and clear. Can I get a thumbs up? Can you guys hear me? Yay! Okay, thank you so much for joining us on this awesome webinar on protecting your business, CCMA strategies for small business owners. Presenting for us is Kulani from Shiluva. Kulani is an HR and labor law specialist and is just going to talk us through certain strategies that as business owners can ensure our small businesses are CCAM protected as much as can be. All right. So I'm really excited. This is the first time we're having an expert joining us. So truly, this is an awesome privilege. Please ask questions. Ask questions so that you can get the answers you need. When else are you going to get an opportunity to have an expert at your disposal? Make the most of it. So thank you so much, Kulani. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pam. Good morning, business owners. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Just by way of introduction, my name is Gulani Shiluvani. As Pam said, I am the founder and chief solutionist at Shiluva. What that basically means is that I just help you deal with your people issues in the most cost-effective way, in the most fair way as well. You know, in addition to all the HR and labor law stuff that we do at Shiluva, we also have a very keen interest in mental health in the workspace. So without taking much time, I am going to get started on all my little tips and tricks. And as I'm talking and as I'm sharing, ladies and gentlemen, please do jot down some questions. I would tell you what my hourly rate is, but you would all leave. But you have me here today for free. So please do take advantage of it. Yeah, okay, let's take it away. So protecting your business from the CCMA is something that is actually plausible. By protecting, we don't mean that you won't be taken to the CCMA. Employers and employees will always have disputes. They will always use the CCMA, and that's why the CCMA is there, actually. But it's important to understand what the role and function of the CCMA is, right? So the CCMA is there to resolve disputes between employers and employees, right? The primary function is to protect the rights of the employee, but it's important to understand that as employers, the CCMA is also there to help you as well, right? So they do it fairly, they do it impartially, and it is always the first step that any party can take before they have to sort of like escalate the matter, right? So you have to take your case to the CCMA first before venturing off to the labor court, to the high court, to the constitutional court, if your case gets to that particular point, and hopefully not. But anyway, so first tip is have your house in order. You must ensure that your business adheres to all labor laws and regulations to minimize CCMA disputes, okay? This includes, but is not limited to, proper documentation, such as employee contracts, being compliant with minimum wage laws as well, and also adhering to health and safety legislation as well. The amount of times that we've had to deal with a client taken to the CCMA and there was no employment contract in place. Not having an employment contract in place does not mean that there is no employer-employee relationship. When you have an employee contract in place, you actually have a piece of paper or a document or a contract that is binding to both parties and will determine how that particular relationship goes as well. That's not to say that you can just put whatever you want in your employment contract. It needs to meet the basic conditions of employment and also needs to be guided by the Labor Relations Act as well. So tip number one, ladies and gentlemen, please have your house in order. Put employment contracts in place. Even if somebody is working for you part-time, let there be an agreement. Make sure that your health and safety is up to scratch. Make sure that you have policies and procedures in place as well. And more importantly, because this is the one that gets a lot of employers into trouble, especially small business owners, pay your people. Pay your people. If the budget is not budgeting and you know it's not budgeting on the 15th and people are supposed to get paid on the 30th, let them know on the 15th to be like, guys, there might be an issue, but I promise I will have it resolved by such and such a time. You have 7 days post the agreement payment date to actually pay salaries as well. But not only pay them, but also make sure that they meet the minimum wage. Okay, there is a national minimum wage in South Africa. Make sure that you understand what that is, implement it into your business, understand whether yours is actually industry specific or just follows the general minimum wage as well. So that's tip number one. Have your house in order. When your house is in order and you're taken to the CCMA, it makes that journey a lot easier. Okay. Tip number two is fairness and consistency, right? You need to maintain a positive work environment. Ensure that you are fair and consistent. This includes like implementing clear policies and procedures for recruitment, performance management, promotions, or any disciplinary action that you are going to take against your employees. You can't treat Susan better than you treat John. You need to treat them equally, because the moment there's any disparity in how you treat your employees, that is going to get you into a lot of trouble. So fairness and consistency. So if you issue a written warning because Mandla was late the first time, but Susan runs late the whole week and you don't give her a written warning, that's going to get you into trouble. And as much as, you know, I do know to a certain degree that business owners, some of you maybe have a favorite employee, but this is not like at home. You must hide who your favorite employee is, you know, and treat everybody the same way you would treat them. My team knows I have a favorite employee, but they don't know who it is. They think it's all of them. So that fairness and consistency is absolutely necessary. Okay. Tip number three is that record all your employee engagements, right? So a lot of practitioners like myself and people on my team, when we're representing employees, we always tell them to make records of everything. Employers, I'm telling you now, you need to make records of everything that happens within your employees as well. So if there was an incident of somebody that was late, if there was an incident of insubordination, whatever incidents happens that you see is actually building up that could be problematic, but record it, but also deal with it. Don't get to a point where you are hurtful and be like, Mandla, you've been late now since March, but Mandla's been late since starting January, but you're only dealing with Mandla in March. It's important that you, whatever strategies you're going to get put into place, you record them and you deal with them as and when they happen. You know, it's not like when you're dealing with your child and you see your child, you know, is not doing the right things and you decide to punish them 5 months later. You know, you need to make sure that you're recording things and that you're implementing corrective measures consistently. What tends to happen and what gets a lot of small business owners into trouble is that we want to deal with something when we are tired. But what happens in the CCMA is like, now this person has been doing this all along. You've let them get away with it all along. There's no record of you doing anything about it. But now all of a sudden, because you're tired, you want to discipline them. That is going to get you into trouble at the CCMA. So record all your employee engagements. And because all this documentation, because remember, when you are at the CCMA, it's a he said, she said kind of situation. And whoever has the best evidence, whoever can prove their case the best, is the one that is going to have the ear of the commissioner as well. So again, those 3 tips: have your house in order, make sure that everything is documented, make sure that you are following Labor Relations Act, minimum wage, have some kind of contract in place. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter whether the person is working for you 1 day a week, they are full-time employed, whether they are a contractor. Even independent contractors need to have some kind of agreement in place as well. And also, let me just give you another free tip. When it comes to independent contractors, don't be one of those people who give somebody an independent contractor because you don't want them to be your employee. Because if that person is working only for you, using your equipment and you have control over the work that they do, guess what? They're your employee according to the legislation. Even if you have an independent contractor. So if somebody's an independent contractor, they really need to be an independent contractor as well. If you don't have a contract in place and somebody works for you for a certain period of time, guess what? That person becomes a permanent employee, whether you wanted them to be a permanent employee or not. So it's important to have your house in order. Number two, fairness and consistency. Make sure that you're treating everybody fair, and that the measures that you put in place for behavioral corrective measures are consistent across the board. That's not to say don't have a favorite employee. We all have one. My team knows, as I like to say. And then number three, record all employee engagements. I can tell you right now, your employees are recording what is happening to them. And should it ever be a CCMA case, you don't want to be left with your brookies down, as my mother would say. You also need to make sure that you are recording everything. So should there be a CCMA case, that you also know you have a leg to stand on as well. Okay. And that
before
is,
we go to
yes.
the next thing, right?
Yeah, sure.
You know, I don't know why these business owners aren't raising hands, because a lot of this, I'm like, yeah, what's this? So let's talk about this one, the third tip, record all employee engagement. At this stage, should the employee know that you are recording? I'm in a safe place here now. I'm speaking to fellow business owners so we can share secrets. At this stage, should the employee know, be part of the engagement and the recording that is taking place?
100%, because if they don't know and you now want to institute some kind of disciplinary action, it's going to be coming out of the blue. And for them, that's going to be a shock. It's the same way you manage performance, right? If you're working on a project and you're not happy with somebody's performance, it shouldn't be at the end of the project that they get that notification that you're not happy with them. They should know. You should be like, Susan, this is now, it's been 3 days in a row. You've been late. I'm making a record of it. Should this happen again, I am going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And follow up on your word. Employees are like children. You know, when you tell your child, if you don't stop that, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you don't do it. And then they do it again and it gets worse. Employees are exactly like that. So if you say to Susan, you've been late 3 times, I'm making a record of it. Should this happen for the 4th time, I'm going to issue you a first verbal warning. Then issue that first verbal warning. And because it's a verbal warning, it doesn't mean it mustn't be written down and put into the employee file as well, right? And I suppose a part of having your house in order is ensuring that your employees have employee files as well.
Okay, perfect. Okay, there's a hand that has been raised by Rulane. Rulane, please unmute and ask your question.
Good morning, all. Let me just see. Can you guys hear me properly?
Yes, we can hear you, Rulani.
Okay, great. Kulani, thank you so much for this valuable insight. I thought maybe I'll just ask my questions at the end because, I'm just literally writing so many notes. Just a quick one. I just had an issue as well in December where 3 of our great employees just up and left because they wanted to go on holiday, this whole holiday season and situations like that. But unfortunately, the way they left, it wasn't like actually proper because we had a conversation with them in October to state that in December we cannot take holidays because that's the most busiest time. And then everybody recorded, everybody was happy, we signed, but unfortunately after that, the performance actually kind of went down. And what happened is at the end of November, these 3 employees just decided to collude amongst themselves and like decide not to just like ditch us. I think I learned a new term called industrial espionage at some point because of what they did. You know what I mean? So
I'm laughing with you, not at you. I promise, Rulani. I'm laughing with you.
My goodness, that was a big learning, and not to take too much time out of the call, obviously. But we thought we did everything right. But these ladies also all over and above that, we did not pay them because obviously that's industrial espionage. But now we're taken to not the CCMA per se, but like small claims court, and it was just a whole lot of admin and time wasting. So now, when such things happen, how do we ensure we protect ourselves as well from like industrial espionage? Because in my view, I cannot keep hiring people but hire them in a way of saying that, okay, in case maybe there's an industrial espionage, let me just keep this person in my back pocket, because I hear that here you're saying we need to have contracts with everyone. Yes, I can have casuals, but then I cannot have a situation where a casual does not work, or I cannot have a situation where this person cannot work. So how do we prevent such things from happening to us as well? And how do we plan accordingly for such things in the future?
You can't really plan for it never to happen because human beings are weird a lot. I deal with humans every day. Human beings are weird, Rulani. So what I would say is that have a leave policy in place. And if you know that the December period is your busiest period and people can't take annual leave during that period because that's when the businesses is busy, then remember that as much as annual leave is provided for in legislation, how people take it is also in agreement with the employer, right? And the moment somebody steps out of those bounds, so the way those ladies decided they're going to go December without coming to work, then you reach out and you say, Kulani, this was the agreement. You send a letter, you send a WhatsApp, you send a dove if need be, with a little, like you get hold of that person as much as possible as you can to say you are now contravening the agreement of that we had in place. You are in breach of contract, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that the person is going to change their ways. Yes, some of them might come back and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because also another thing employees like to do is that they like to they play like they pretend like they don't know, or they forgot, etc., etc., etc. When that is in place and the behavior continues, then Rulani, you also need to be okay with cutting your losses and taking them through a disciplinary action that might lead to them being dismissed, cutting your losses and moving on. I know sometimes we get, and especially as small business owners, we do get attached to our employees because they come in, you train them, you teach them, and then it feels like the moment things are starting to go, it tends to fall apart sometimes, right? But my thing is that when somebody is in breach of an agreement, you let them know that they're in breach of the agreement. You let them know what the consequences are. Should they continue, then you effect the consequences. But all of this is going to be done by what kind of contract is in place, what kind of policies and procedure around that particular issue are there as well.
Got you. Okay. I think that's it for now. I know I'll have more questions, but let me not take too much time. Thank you.
No, sure. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Rulani. Okay, we also had a question, Kulani, that was asking about the minimum wage. You know how at the beginning, tip 1. So I think people just want clarity on what is the minimum wage and what industry minimum wages there are, or anything else you can touch on with regards to the minimum wage.
Okay, so I don't have what the minimum wage is off of the top of my head, unfortunately, but I know it changes every February, March, if I'm not mistaken. So it's about 20. We haven't hit the 30 Rand per hour mark yet. I think we're sitting at about, Joe, if you're on the call, just help me out, please. I think it's sitting at about 27 Rand something per hour, right?
So 20.
Thank you.
Yes, there you go. 27 Rand 58 per hour, which works out to about 4.4 per month, 4.4 something per month.
Yes, right. And then certain job groups have different minimum wages, right? So I'll give a good example. like domestic workers, their minimum wage is different from the general minimum wage, right? So you need to understand if your industry has a different minimum wage to the national minimum wage. But if you don't fall into any special category in terms of the work that you do, then you follow the national minimum wage, right? So I'll give you a good example. For you and me, Pam, the kind of organizations that we run, there's no specific minimum wage around. So we follow that 27 Rand and whatever cents it is, right? So that's, and it's updated every year. It's updated every year. So you need to make sure that every year when Tulas and his people decide how much their people are getting paid, you need to make sure that you are still within that. And if you're not, you need to adjust accordingly.
Perfect, perfect. And then we have another question with regards to the independent contractor. I think you had touched upon it. So somebody said they just need you to explain a little bit more, because I think as business owners think when it comes to independent contractors, when it comes to casual workers, part-time, they are not our employees. They are not our problem. They can't take us to the CCMA. That's the thing. That's the general thinking that I get. So maybe if you can deep into the independent contractors, part-time employees, foreign employees, if as well, there's anything we should just be aware of on that part as well.
It's a good thing you mentioned foreign employees, because employers tend to think just because their employees are foreign and undocumented, they are protected.
Yeah.
No. The CCMA doesn't care whether your person is undocumented or not. They are still a worker and they're still an employee relationship. They will deal with the illegalness later. And guess who's also going to pay for that illegalness? You.
No.
You get fined. You do. You get fined. If the Department of Labor comes into your workplace and finds that you have hired illegal immigrants that don't have the relevant paperwork to be working in South Africa, don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. I'm begging you, do not under any circumstances do that to yourself, because not only will they be able to go to the CCMA and possibly win, but you will also be fined accordingly as well. Okay, so let me get the independent contractor thing out the way. So what will tend to happen is that, let's say you're starting out and maybe you have 1 or 2 people in your team, and maybe you got a tender and there's a project that you're working on. You know this project is going to run from March until June, and you know that Kulani can do this thing very well, right? And then you bring Kulani on as an independent contractor, but you control the hours that Kulani works in this independent contractor conversation that you have. You give her equipment. So you give her a laptop, you say she must come to the office 3 days a week. You tell her that she needs to work between the hours of 9 and 5. That is not an independent contractor. That is an employee. An independent contractor is somebody who is going to come in. There's going to be deliverables. There's going to be an invoice usually. They come in and they get out. And usually they're not only working on your project, right? And I know sometimes as a small business owner, you don't have control over that, but it's important that you don't blur the lines with an independent contractor. So you work on deliverables with an independent contractor, whether they are doing it 5 hours before it's due in Tahiti, it's none of your business. You just know, you just say, I'm paying you to deliver on this particular set of work at this particular date, and this is the agreed upon remunerations that you're going to get. They have nothing to do with your leave policy, right? However, you still need to make sure that if they are working within your, let's say you have an office, that there's certain things that might apply. You still need to make sure that it's a safe environment for them to work in. And another thing, ladies and gentlemen, safety nowadays also includes the mental well-being of your employees. It's not whether it's just a physically dangerous place. You also need to ensure that you are reasonably providing a psychologically safe work environment for people to work in as well. That update in terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act was updated. Oh, you guys, they update these things every day. I just keep up. I just can't remember when it was updated, but it was updated a few years ago, right? And then part-time workers, right? It's exactly that. It's part-time. Not and so part-time, you need to decide, is the person working for you once a week and you're paying them so much? Are they working for you twice a week and you're paying them so much? What tends to happen is that, especially with part-time workers, is that as employers, we blur the lines. We start with 1 week, and then next thing, without sort of like having the conversation and coming into agreement with somebody, next thing, this person is in your office 5 days a week, but they're a part-time worker. So ensure that whatever boundaries you're putting in terms of the kind of employment that you are offering somebody, that you stick within those boundaries. Should there be changes in those boundaries, you consult with the person, you effect the changes, and you sign that you've changed them. Okay.
Perfect. All right, I want to open the floor to questions to the people that are on the webinar. Use this time. We've got time for maybe 2 questions maximum.
Okay.
All right, while they're thinking, please raise your hand, unmute your mic if you have something to say. Kulani, there's a lot. There's a lot that should come.
Okay.
There's a lot that we don't know as business owners. You know?
Yeah.
I come from an environment where we had an HR department. Suddenly I am the HR department. And I have a feeling that applies to a lot of the people here. So how can Shaluva help these small businesses? You know, can you tell us a little bit more about how you guys can be able to help us small business owners?
Okay, so we have a few solutions. We actually call ourselves solutionists because we provide solutions. For very small businesses, we have something called HR in a box. And that HR in a box is a service that allows you to get your house in order. So whether you're still a one-man show or maybe you have 1 or 2 people, it gives you the contracts, it gives you some policies and procedures as well. And then also it gives you a bit of time to sort of like consult with us as well, just to understand your business and whatever issues that you are facing, right? For the more established businesses, we actually have something that is called human capital solutions. And that's where we come in and we actually run your HR department for you. Right. And it seems like a lot, but essentially what we do is that we make sure that you have an up and running HR department that sits within your business, but is being outsourced to us. And we make sure that everything is in place. We actually even have a piece of technology that allows you to sort of like manage leave, onboarding, you know, training and development on as well. It's all done via a tool that we use on the cloud as well. But also we take on ad hoc projects. So if you need somebody to come in and advise on a certain matter that you're facing, maybe you want to institute performance management, maybe you got that dreaded CCMA letter and you're freaking out and you need somebody just to walk you through it and prepare for your case, we do that as well. So we are a full service HR and labor law consultancy. There's certain solutions that we have on retainer, and then there are also certain solutions that we have on an ad hoc basis as well. But all our information is there. You can go onto our website, and for everybody that is on the call, we will, if you are happy to, we are going to get your email addresses from Pam, and you guys can get an additional 30 minutes free with me or Josephine to ask. You can go back wild for 30 minutes, free, mahala, kratas.
This is awesome. This is awesome. Okay, one more question before we let you go.
Sure.
So a question came in that says, do I
Mhm.
have to panic if an employee takes me to the CCMA?
I want to say no, but it also depends how you've been behaving and things like that. I usually say don't panic, because panic is going to make you act in a way that might just jeopardize your case. But no, there's no need to panic unless you know that you've done something wrong. Guys, remember, South Africa is not America. You can't just say, you can't pull a Donald Trump on people and say you're fired, right? There's a process that you need to follow. You need to understand nuances like what is fair and unfair labor practice. You need to understand when they say is something substantially fair, or was it procedurally fair? All those kinds of things. So I want to say no, but I know that every time a client gets a CCMA notice, they're phoning me and they're like, Kulani, you need to help me. But and then they say to me, but you're not taking this seriously. And then we go to the CCMA, they present their case. And if you're going to get into trouble, I tell you that you're going to get into trouble. Maybe let me give you one last tip, right? In all your agreements with all your contractors, etc., 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 just put a clause in there that says before somebody goes to the CCMA, let them allow for internal mediation first. We do that as well as a service, just by the way, because then that allows you to bring in a mediator to sit across the table and maybe help you guys resolve your issues before you go to the CCMA. Because going to the CCMA, you never really know the kind of you don't know what you don't know. You also don't know where the commissioner uvuge gupi that day, because they're also human beings. Yeah.
Rulani, I do acknowledge your hand. It's just that I'm looking at the time. The webinar was scheduled until 9:30. So if you guys have any more questions for Kulani and her team, please reach out to Kulani at team@shiluva.co.za. Don't forget, Kulani has afforded you guys an opportunity to book a consultation with her and her team for just 30 minutes to ask any more questions that perhaps you felt uncomfortable addressing during this webinar. But I will ask you, so officially the webinar has ended. This is recorded, so we will share it with you guys. Rest assured, we'll definitely share it with you. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on this webinar. I'm going to ask Kulani if she can give us just a little bit more minutes of her time, if possible. Kulani, how much more time can you squeeze in for us? Because
hold on, let me just quickly look at my schedule. Just give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds.
Please.
I just need to look at my schedule. I know I have something coming up. Oh, shit, you guys are lucky. I can be here for another 15 minutes or so. I think my next one is at 10 o'clock. So we can take it up. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay. Rulani, go ahead. And then Gosnati, you'll be next.
Pam, I've got so many questions. I'll reach out to Kulani separately. Definitely. Thank you so much for the service. I need her services, so it's fine.
Awesome,
Thank you.
awesome.
And yours as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rulani. Thank you so much.
Gosnati, had raised your hand.
I wanted to say on the chat, I have attached a link to the contact us form on our contact us form to our services. So you can just go to the Shiluva page on the About Us, click the contact us form there, and then put in your details, and then it's gonna take that information to our inbox, and then we're gonna reach out to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gosnati. All right, I'm just gonna address some of the questions that we have. Okay, if anybody who's still on the line has a question, please just unmute, raise your hand. But for now, I'll just take through the questions that I have. So Kulani, there's somebody who's asked, please share the dismissal process, A to Z, which is not possible in 30 minutes. I know how us business owners are. We want it all in 30 minutes, but as best as you can in a couple of minutes, the dismissal process.
Okay, so the dismissal process is different depending on what the issue at hand is, right? So the way, I suppose to a certain degree, but what tends to happen in any given situation in South Africa, if you want to dismiss somebody correctly, there is a process that you would follow, and that process also includes you having some kind of disciplinary hearing. You can also dismiss them via retrenchment. You can also dismiss them via a mutual separation agreement. So it's through the disciplinary process or a disciplinary hearing, through retrenchment, right? Retrenchment, you have to pay them. And through a separation agreement, you also have to pay them here as well. Okay.
Okay.
So that's pretty much how you or dare, but that's a very grim one and we shouldn't talk about.
Okay, cool.
You know when they say you mustn't, you know when they say that the moment you die, your employer has sent the job spec to Shiluva.
You must know.
Replace you.
Okay, the other question that came up, ne, are
Mhm.
SMEs also exposed to the same liability as big corporates?
So I think I saw that question where they're saying, do you have to be making a certain amount of money
Yeah.
to be taken to the CCMA?
Yes.
No, it's not like SARS, unfortunately. No,
Okay.
no. The moment you are an employer and there is an employee employment relationship that is confirmed via practice, via a contract, if something happens and the person feels aggrieved, they can take that issue to whether you're making 5 rand, 5 million, 500 million, same. Yeah.
This one, I think you did touch upon it, but they're asking, when is the right time to fire an employee?
That's a very difficult question, right? And I think maybe a piece of advice here is to say, guys, I know that a lot of you put in probation periods in your contracts, those who do have contracts in place. Please remember that the probation period is actually governed by a piece of legislation. It's called the Code of Good Practice in terms of probation period. And a lot of people like to use that as sort of like the right time to fire somebody. But there's certain boxes that you need to tick for it to be done procedurally fair. So the right time would be as soon as possible. Guys, for those who follow me on LinkedIn, it's like Mjolo, this thing. The moment the person is not doing the things that make you happy, get them out. Because why are you keeping somebody? And I'm speaking to myself, right? I've had situations where it's taken me longer than I should have to have a conversation with somebody in the business as well. So have the conversation. If things are not improving and you feel like you have done everything well and as fair as possible, don't wait. Don't wait. Because you're going to frustrate yourself.
Yeah, a lot of us business owners, I'm not including myself here though, but a lot of small business owners are afraid of letting people go. If a relationship is not working, it is not working. As long as you've done what was agreed upon, you've tried as much as you have in order to get the work to be done. Because business owners are responsible for the running of their businesses and making sure the business is performing at the highest peak it can, right? And if an employee is standing in your way, do what needs to be done legally, but you need to let go people that are holding your company back from growth. Don't be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Please don't.
They're not your child, hey? They're not your child. They're also not your father. I also like to say, like, unless the person, just as quickly as possible when you see that these things are not, and that's not to say that the first mistake, the person must be out. We're all human beings. Give people a reasonable amount of time to actually sort of like, prove that they're not suitable as well. But also, you also need to understand for yourself as a business owner, the kind of individuals that you want in your organization, right? And hire for that. And also you need to understand your limitations as a small business owner, guys. Your employees are going to get poached. I'm telling you now, we poach people from small businesses every day for them to go into corporate. And guess what? They see how, because everybody thinks working in corporate is fun until it's not. And then they come back and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I want to go back to that small business that you poached me from. So just make peace with the fact that people are going to be coming and going in your business. You as a small business owner, you are the most consistent employee you will ever have. Yeah.
Okay, we have another question that asks, can an employee take you to CCMA even if you both have not signed a contractual agreement?
100%, yes.
We as business owners seem to think we are protected in ways where there's no evidence that shows we are protected. We assume this level of protection. I don't know why.
Yeah, guys. And I think it also just comes that a lot of us, let me give you a good example, right? I'm good at what I do. So and we focus on that as business owners, right? And that's why I outsource the numbering to Pam. I know nothing about SARS. I absolutely know nothing about SARS, but I found a partnership with Pam where I know that my chankura is being looked after and all my books are in order as well. Do the same for your business. So whatever industry you're in, you're an expert in that, but also realize that you're not an expert in the things that help you to run your business well and will keep your business out of trouble. So try and find those expertise. Yes, there's a lot of, Google is your friend, but a lot of the stuff that's coming up on Google is either very Americanized or maybe there's stuff that you don't really understand. You know, Labor Guide gives you a general overview. It doesn't give you the nuances. It also doesn't let you know that there's certain precedents that have been you set in law because of case law. Case law, whether you're involved in it or not, sets a precedent on how things are going to be handled, right? So it's important that you just, even if it, and I know, guys, Pam and I are not cheap. There's a reason we went to school for these things, né? But we are affording you guys, and other experts like ourselves are affording you guys the best advice at a reasonable price. Spend the money so you don't have to spend even more money later on. That, you know, so yes, an absence of a contract does not mean that there's no employer-employee relationship. And if that relationship carries on for a certain period of time, it becomes a permanent employment relationship. Whereas maybe you just wanted to give somebody a fixed term contract for a year, 2 years, 3 years. But if you have this relationship is consistent for a certain period of time, that person is permanently your employee, and it's difficult it's difficult and expensive to fire a permanent employee.
Okay, I don't want to miss out on this opportunity where you mentioned about mental health as part of the requirements. Please go into more detail about that.
So you would know that there is obviously the Occupational Health and Safety Act that says that, you know, you need to make sure that employees that are working in your office or maybe even working remotely, that the physical spaces are as reasonably safe as possible, right? And that's why Pam will tell you at your first opportunity, register for COIDA. It's annoying, it's a lot of paperwork, I know, but do it. However, we've also realized that safety also means that people are taken care of psychologically. What tends to happen is that there's a lot of harassment, bullying, and victimization in the workplace as well. If you don't deal with those certain issues in the workplace, you can be taken to the CCMA for constructive dismissal. What is constructive dismissal? Is when somebody resigns and they can prove to the CCMA that you've made their working environment unbearable for whatever reason. So, you know, it's things like a single mom works for you, she has a child, and she asks if she can leave a little bit early so she can go watch her son's soccer match. And instead of saying, why is Bo Kulani and their children, they're making their lives my problems, it's just saying, you know, Kulani, maybe what we should do is that we should sort of like re-look at your work hours. So don't bully and victimize people because of their life situations. And also, if there's somebody in the office that is bullying or victimizing people, deal with that person as well, because people bring their whole selves into the workplace and we don't leave our problems at the gates, unfortunately. If I come into the office, Nkosinathi was even asking me today, I walked in with my sunglasses and he's like, "Aibo Sisi, what's wrong?" And I'm like, I don't have 5 million, you know? So it's just creating that space that makes sure that people's psychology, their mental health is looked after. Give people time off. If somebody's not utilizing their annual leave, make sure, like, Nkosinathi, you've been working 6 months flat. You haven't taken a day of annual leave. Please just take leave and look after yourself. And just make sure that the environment is conducive to people's mental well-being. And deal with anything that would take away from that.
I'm glad you touched on the annual leave because I've seen instances where employers can deny employment, annual leave. To what extent legally can employers deny annual leave? Where it's like, no, we're too busy, you can't take leave.
It's a very small, I'll use Rulani's example. Ne? Whereas in her business, they're very busy over the December period, right? So as an employer, she can say, guys, for this period, we are either going to limit or not issue annual leave because we're busy. But in times where they are not busy, and the person has let the person know, say, I would like to apply for leave. You can't unreasonably deny somebody their annual leave. It is afforded to them in the basic conditions of employment. The minimum days that you can give somebody that works Monday to Friday is 15 days. And if they work Monday to Saturday, I think it's 18 or 21 days. I just need to double check. Like I said, it changes from time to time. I always need to have the legislation in my hand to read it. But yeah, so you need to afford people, you can only reasonably deny annual leave, but you can't unreasonably deny annual leave because it's actually part of their remuneration. It makes part of their salary. Yeah.
Okay, another question has come in, very insightful, thank you. Please advise the timelines after a person has left your company. How long does she or he have to
take the employer
CCMA? Yeah.
30 days.
30 days after they've left. Okay, all right. Thanks, Charity. The other question I have, right, is does CCMA protect employers? Or let me put it this way, can employers take an employee to the CCMA?
Yebo, especially those ones that like to resign with immediate effect when there's a 30-day notice period. They're in breach of contract. They're in breach of contract. So you can, yes, they are, employers can, usually in the cases of breach of contract, when employee has breached the contractual agreement, yes, you can. The CCMA is also there for you as an employer.
And again, like you said at the beginning, making sure that the employer's house is in order, because you can't take an employee to the CCMA for breach of contract if there's no contract. So again, Kulani, please remind us of the packages that you said are available for the small people and the more established companies.
Okay, so it's two things. It's HR in a box, and that just sort of like gives you all the documents that are small. Like maybe you're starting out, maybe it's just you and two other people, you and one other person, different employment contracts, some leave policies, working conditions and working hours, etc., and a bit of a handbook that has some guidelines in terms of grievances, disciplinary code, and then the human capital solutions. Those have the price is dependent on how many employees you have in your business, and that's where we come in with all our expertise and also our tech to come and make and build HR systems within your organizations, and we run it as a retainer business, whereas the HR in a box is a once-off payment kind of situation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kulani. I really do appreciate your time. This webinar has been so insightful. Very much what drove me to ask you to come and present to us, because I felt as a lot of us small business owners are bringing in people and we are leaving ourselves exposed to CCMA.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you mentioned Shiluva has certain processes and systems in place that could help us to be better protected. Again, you can't 100% shield your company from CCMA. That's impossible,
Yeah.
But make sure that you reach out to Kulani and Shiluva and her team to help you to be better prepared for anything that might come up. All right, that's all the questions I have on my side, and I will be taking up that 30-minute consultation. If other business owners don't, I'll use their 30 minutes as well. Thank you so
Pam,
much,
I
Kulani.
genuinely don't blame you. I would do the same thing as well. Like how many people are on this call? How many requests did you get? That means that I have a balance of
You
so
know,
many. So can
I
I
am
have
checking.
everything?
Is there one thing that you just want the business owners that are still here to take away? One thing you just want to be like, I just need to emphasize this a little bit more, and then we'll close the webinar.
Guys, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have your house in order. Just have your house in order. It doesn't, even if you have one part-time employee, have your house in order.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Kulani.
everybody.
All right, Rulani has one small question. Kulani, just one small question.
Yes,
Kulani?
just one small question. So what is the difference between what you guys do and also the IR solutions as well? Does that have to do with now? Because we're in the food manufacturing space as well. So I know that Food Bev, CETA also, that they do get involved in what we do. So what is the difference between what you guys do and also the IR solutions? And do you also offer those solutions as well? And then the second last question is, for a small business, I mean, getting a house in order is also quite costly as well. So it's kind of a little bit expensive. I don't know if there are other things that we can get away with, maybe on the HR box, and then there's also other things that we can, do ourselves, like a DIY, because it is quite expensive. And I think that's what gets us into trouble, because yes, we hire cheap labor sometimes, or we do things cheaply, and then obviously later it will be expensive. So it's the IR part, and then obviously the affordability part side of it, to just ensure that we get our house in order.
So yes, we do handle industrial
is that
relations
clear? Yeah.
issues. Yes, we do handle industrial relations issues. That's pretty much the labor law side of things. And because you are food and bev, there might be a bargaining council and all of those particular nuances that come into play as well. So we need to be cognizant of that. And then also affordability is relative. Rulani, right now, I want 5 million, but I am cognizant of the fact that somebody just wants 500 rand. So it's different, right? But
I know. Yeah.
Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation.
Okay.
Just send us your details. We'll set up some time, and then prepare for that meeting with us, and literally nail us down, milk us for all we've got, and we'll do the best to help
I've got
you.
a pre-read. Yeah.
Yes. Perfect.
Sorry.
No worries.
So I did send a form. So that it's for you,
perfect.
and that's for is that for Pam as well? It's for both of you ladies, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. I need to rush to the next one.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kulani. Thank you so much, business owners. Keta from Zumo Consulting is gonna stick around for until 10 o'clock in case anybody else has other questions. But thank you. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. La 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 la. See.